She replaced you in a matter of days, maybe even hours. And now you're sitting there asking yourself one painful question: did I ever matter to her at all? Before you let that thought destroy your confidence, you need to hear something that could completely change the way you see the situation. The moment you see her with someone new, your mind immediately starts creating stories. You tell yourself that she's happier without you. You convince yourself that the new guy is better looking, more successful, more exciting, or somehow more worthy than you. Every picture you imagine, every rumor you hear, every social media post you come across seems to confirm your worst fear that you were easy to replace. But here's the mistake that destroys most men after a breakup: they confuse speed with significance. Just because someone enters another relationship quickly doesn't automatically mean the previous relationship meant nothing. Human beings respond to emotional pain in different ways. Some people sit with it, learn from it, and grow through it. Others try to outrun it. They stay busy, surround themselves with distractions, and sometimes jump into something new before they've truly processed what ended. That doesn't tell you how much you mattered. It tells you how they're choosing to deal with change. Think about this for a moment. If someone immediately fills every empty space in their life, when do they actually stop and reflect? When do they honestly ask themselves what went wrong, what they could have done differently, or what they truly lost? Often they don't. Not at first. That's why you should never judge the ending of your story by the first chapter after the breakup. Most men panic because they're looking at appearances instead of reality. From the outside, it may seem like she's moved on effortlessly. She looks happy, she's smiling, she's posting pictures. Everything appears perfect. But appearances rarely tell the whole story. People naturally show the highlights of their lives while hiding the confusion, uncertainty, and emotional struggles that happen behind closed doors. More importantly, none of that changes your value. Your worth was never determined by how quickly someone found another relationship. If you allow her decision to define your identity, you'll spend months trying to compete with someone you don't even know. You'll compare yourself constantly. You'll wonder what he has that you don't. You'll question every part of yourself until you no longer recognize the confident man you used to be. That's exactly why so many men lose twice. First, they lose the relationship, then they lose themselves. Don't make that mistake. Instead of asking why she replaced you so quickly, ask yourself a better question: what kind of man do I want to become from this experience? Because that's the only question you actually control. You can't control who she dates. You can't control how quickly she moves on. You can't control the choices she makes after leaving, but you can control your response. You can choose dignity over desperation. You can choose growth over comparison. You can choose discipline over emotional reactions. And one day you'll realize something powerful. The people who truly win after heartbreak aren't the ones who replace someone the fastest, they're the ones who rebuild themselves the strongest. Because your real comeback begins the moment you stop measuring your worth by someone else's choices. The moment you find out she's with someone else, every instinct inside you wants to compete. You want to prove you're better. You want to remind her of everything you did for her. You want to show her that she's making a mistake. That's exactly what most men do, and it's exactly why they lose even more respect. Here's something you need to understand: the man who feels the need to compete has already placed himself in second place. Think about it. If you're constantly trying to convince someone that you're the better choice, what are you really communicating? You're saying that your value depends on winning their approval. You're allowing someone else's decision to determine how you see yourself. That's not confidence, that's insecurity disguised as effort. When emotions are high, it's easy to believe that one more message will change everything. You convince yourself that if she just hears your side one more time, she'll realize what she's losing. So you send the text, you make the phone call, you try to explain why the new relationship won't work, but every attempt has the opposite effect. Instead of appearing strong, you appear emotionally dependent. Instead of creating attraction, you create pressure. Instead of looking valuable, you communicate that you're afraid of losing. Fear has a way of making people act against their own best interests. The strongest move isn't proving you're better than the new guy. The strongest move is refusing to compete at all. Because here's the truth most people never realize: you don't know anything about their relationship beyond what you can see. You don't know if they're genuinely happy. You don't know what conversations happen behind closed doors. You don't know what challenges they're facing. So why waste your energy fighting an imaginary battle? Every minute you spend comparing yourself is a minute you're not improving yourself. Comparison is a trap because there is no finish line. If he's taller, you'll wish you were taller. If he's wealthier, you'll wish you had more money. If he's more outgoing, you'll wish you had his personality. Your mind will always find another reason to feel inadequate. That's why comparison never builds confidence, it destroys it. Real confidence comes from something completely different. It comes from knowing your value without needing someone else to confirm it. Imagine two men after the same breakup. One spends every day watching her social media, trying to figure out whether she's happier, wondering who she's with, and searching for signs that the new relationship is failing. The other disappears. He stops watching, he stops reacting. He accepts what he cannot control and puts every ounce of energy into becoming stronger, wiser, healthier, and more disciplined. Which man do you think grows? Which man do you think becomes more attractive over time? The answer is obvious. Silence isn't weakness, silence is discipline. It takes far more strength to walk away with your dignity than it does to keep chasing someone who's already made a choice. That's why silence often says what words never can. It communicates confidence. It communicates emotional control. It communicates self respect. Whether she notices immediately or months later isn't the point. The point is that you're no longer living your life trying to convince someone of your worth. You're simply living it. And that's the kind of confidence that can't be faked because the moment you stop competing with the new guy is the moment you start becoming the man you were always meant to be. At this point, you've done something most men never have the discipline to do. You didn't chase, you didn't compete, you stepped back, accepted reality, and allowed life to unfold on its own. And that's exactly when the next lesson begins because time has a way of revealing truths that emotions often hide. When a new relationship starts, everything feels exciting. The conversations are fresh. The attention is new. There are no old arguments, no disappointments, no painful memories attached to the connection. Everything feels effortless because both people are showing the best versions of themselves. This is what psychologists often call the honeymoon phase. During this stage, it's easy to believe you found someone perfect. It's easy to think this person understands me better. It's easy to believe this relationship is different. But here's what experience teaches every person sooner or later: no relationship stays in the honeymoon phase forever. Eventually, routines replace excitement, real personalities begin to appear, expectations increase. Misunderstandings happen, the little habits that once seemed cute become annoying. The qualities that were hidden during the excitement become impossible to ignore. That's when fantasy slowly gives way to reality. Most men never think about this because they're too busy imagining that her new relationship is perfect. They create stories in their own minds where the new guy never makes mistakes, where every date is amazing, and where she's happier than she's ever been. But that's imagination, not reality. Reality is that every relationship eventually reaches the point where attraction alone isn't enough. Communication matters, compatibility matters, emotional maturity matters, respect matters. Those things can't be faked forever. This doesn't mean her new relationship will fail. It doesn't mean she'll automatically come back. It simply means that every relationship is eventually tested by real life. And that's where comparison naturally begins. Not because she's trying to compare, not because she's secretly thinking about you every single day, because the human mind automatically compares present experiences with past ones. Maybe she remembers how calm you stayed during stressful moments. Maybe she remembers how safe she felt around you. Maybe she realizes that some qualities she overlooked weren't so easy to find after all. It's funny how people often appreciate consistency only after experiencing inconsistency. Sometimes they don't realize the value of patience until they meet someone impatient. They don't recognize emotional stability until they experience emotional chaos. They don't appreciate loyalty until they encounter someone unreliable. Life has a way of teaching lessons that words never could. That's why trying to interrupt the process is such a mistake. Imagine planting a seed in the ground. Would you dig it up every few days to check if it's growing? Of course not. You trust the process. Growth happens beneath the surface before anyone can see it. Life works the same way. When you constantly text, check in, or try to remind her of your value, you're digging up the seed before it has a chance to grow. Instead, let reality do what it always does. Let everyday life answer questions that arguments never could. Let experiences reveal truths that emotions once covered. While that's happening, don't make the mistake of putting your own life on hold. The purpose of waiting is never to wait for someone else. The purpose is to keep moving forward, build your career, improve your health, strengthen your mindset, expand your friendships. Create a life so meaningful that your happiness no longer depends on whether someone from your past returns. Because here's the beautiful irony: the man who's constantly watching her life never notices his own opportunities. But the man who's fully focused on becoming better often wakes up one day and realizes he no longer needs the ending he once prayed for. And that's when life has a surprising way of opening doors you never expected. Because reality always replaces fantasy, and reality rewards the man who never stopped growing. The biggest comeback you'll ever experience has nothing to do with her. It begins the moment you stop watching her life and start rebuilding your own. Most men waste months checking social media, asking mutual friends questions, and wondering if her new relationship is still working. Every notification becomes a source of hope or disappointment. Every photo becomes another reason to compare themselves to someone else. But while they're busy watching her story, they're forgetting to write their own. Your comeback starts the day you decide that your future deserves more attention than your past. Instead of wondering who she's spending time with, spend that time improving your body. Instead of replaying old conversations in your mind, learn a new skill, build your career, read more books, start the business you've been putting off, strengthen your friendships, become the kind of man who is constantly moving forward. Something incredible happens when your focus changes. You stop waking up hoping she'll text you. You start waking up excited about your own goals. That's real freedom. And here's the irony: the less your life revolves around her, the more attractive you naturally become. Not because you're trying to impress her, but because confidence grows when you're making progress. Your energy changes, your mindset changes, even the way you carry yourself changes. Whether she notices or not is no longer the point. Your life becomes bigger than one relationship. That's the comeback most people never expect, because the strongest revenge isn't proving someone wrong. It's proving to yourself that you were always capable of becoming more. Because your greatest comeback begins the moment you choose yourself. Months may pass before your paths cross again. Maybe it's by chance, maybe through mutual friends, or maybe she reaches out herself. But if that moment ever comes, the biggest mistake you can make is showing up as the same man she left. Your comeback isn't about changing her mind, it's about changing yourself. She shouldn't see the man who is constantly seeking reassurance or waiting for her approval. She should meet someone who has grown through the pain instead of being defined by it. A man who is calmer under pressure, more confident in his decisions, and fully focused on his own purpose. Growth is difficult to hide. It shows in the way you speak, it shows in your posture, it shows in the peace you carry, because your happiness no longer depends on one person's opinion. That's the difference between pretending to move on and actually moving on. When you've truly grown, you don't feel the need to impress anyone. You don't bring up the past. You don't try to make her jealous. You simply live your life with quiet confidence. Ironically, that's often when people notice the biggest change. They expect to find the same version of you they walked away from. Instead, they find someone stronger, more disciplined, and emotionally mature. Whether she feels curiosity, admiration, or even regret is entirely up to her. Your responsibility isn't to control her reaction. Your responsibility is to become a man you're proud of, regardless of who is watching, because the most powerful comeback is becoming someone who no longer needs to prove anything to anyone. By the end of this journey, you'll realize something that changes the way you see relationships forever. The real victory was never about whether she came back. It was about who you became after she left. At the beginning, you probably believed that your happiness depended on hearing from her again. You imagined that one message, one apology, or one second chance would finally give you peace. But as you focused on your own growth, your priorities began to change. You became stronger because you had to. You became more disciplined because pain forced you to grow. You discovered that your confidence wasn't supposed to come from someone choosing you. It was supposed to come from the way you chose yourself every single day. That's the lesson heartbreak quietly teaches. If she reaches out one day, you'll be able to respond from a place of confidence instead of desperation. And if she never does, your life will still keep moving forward because you've built an identity that doesn't depend on one relationship. That's real freedom. The irony is that people are naturally drawn to those who don't seek constant validation. Confidence, purpose, and self respect create a quiet strength that others can feel without you saying a word. So don't measure your comeback by whether someone returns, misforge it by the man you become in the process, because when you reach the point where your peace, purpose, and happiness no longer depend on anyone else's decision, you've already achieved the greatest comeback of all, and that's a victory no one can ever take away from you.